This is the Owl of Wisdom. Like and subscribe for 10 years of good luck. If you don't, it won't be pretty. Where is my car? This is a long one of what happens if you really piss off a prankster. Some of the finer details may have been lost in time, as this story is about 30 years old, but I will tell it as good as I remember and have not changed anything of the spirit of the story. I work as a new paper fitter and was on a job where they were building a big office building of about 25 floors, smack in the middle of town, and was lucky to be on site both times when this story unfolded. So me and my colleague had to lay a 6-inch gas pipe for the building's heating. This was a two-phase job where we first had to run the gas pipe into the building during the rough phase and install a valve with a blind for safety reasons, and then come back months later, just before they start heating the building, to install the last part and place the gas meter itself. Day 1, we come on site, and as you expect, parking is hell, as the building is in the center of Rotterdam, Holland. Me and 2 ground workers and equipment got dropped off, and my colleague parks the van 5 minutes away. We got told to report to the site manager, so we wait for my colleague as he was lead, and a lot more experienced than me then, and I was still learning finer parts of the trade. Under him, he was a nice easygoing patient guy who trained all the new guys, and when he is also there, we go to site manager to hear what he has to say, what he wants, and get the do's and don'ts of the site. We come to his office, and my colleague knocks on the door and gets in, and he is on the phone and tells us to get a coffee. He would be right by us. 15 minutes pass, and my colleague thinks he properly forgotten all about us, noting strange. Site managers are busy guys, so he goes to the guy again and gets told to wait some more. This happens 3 more times, and by the 4th time we are just about over an hour on site, and so my colleague has enough of it and walks into his office and stays there, as we can't wait all day. Then the site manager explodes. "Can't you see I'm on the phone? Wait outside till I have fucking time for you." My colleague: "Okay, so you don't want gas to your nice new building? Okay then, we are leaving again." And I explained to the gas company why we are leaving here now. Good luck getting gas anytime soon. No one shouts at me like that for no good reason. After having me wait for over an hour, he walks out of the door and tells us we are leaving. We start walking, and outside the site manager, from here on named the ass or douchebag, catches up to us and start to humbly apologize and says that the job is a mess and so on. Colleague accepts his apologies but tells him that the next time we are gone, we talk about the job and get our intro of the site. Little explanation why the guy was suddenly so nice to my colleague, as we were just lowly contractor workers and hired by the gas company. The people at the gas company are nice people to work for / with, and mostly always willing to help / cooperate as much they could. But if they would hear what the guy did, they would side with us and take their time and enforcing all the rules. Also, he would have had to pay our day that day, as commercial connections have to pay for installation labor and materials, and they could be nasty if they wanted to be, as they knew you needed them. They did not need you. By that time it's break time, and in the canteen, we hear that the guy is a real douchebag, and that he shouts all the time against anyone who's below him, and that it's always his way or the highway, and no one had a good word to say about him, other than he does finish his projects on time. So after the break, we started our job. The guys started to dig the trench, and we started to drill a big hole through the foundation for the gas pipe to get in. As we are busy, one of the ground workers gets to us and tells my colleague that the cars need to be moved soon, as they are standing on top of where the trench is coming. My colleague asked one of the carpenters working close to us, who he had to ask for moving the cars for today, and said tomorrow they can park there again. He said he would arrange it for us because he likes to tell the asshole that he had to move his car off site, at least 5 properly 10 minutes away from site, as the center is getting busier, and he liked to see his face all steamy when he tells him. But after a minute or so, the guy comes back and asks if we are in a real rush. I said to him, "Nah, we still need about 30 minutes, but lunch is in 45, so after lunch is also fine with us." He says okay, and even today I can still see him grinning from ear to ear, with eyes that says that he is up to no good. as it were the only 5 parking spots on site. It will be a pain for all the guys that were allowed to park there and move their cars off site in the middle of the day when the city center was filled up with cars. After couple of minimum, he comes back with a shovel and starts digging 4 shallow parallel trenches about 20 cm/ 8 inches deep on a place bit out of the way, in soft sand, where you can't park. After 5 minutes he is finished, and comes back with a big heavy duty almost 20-foot long pallet on a forklift, and put it down, and the 4 big crossbeams under the pallet fit right into the 4 hole he had dug. After that he stacks up some wood in front of the pallet making a ramp and walks away, and it now looks like nice parking spot. After that, all the office people parked there started to move their cars including the doucher bag, only he did not drive his big car away, but parks it on top of the pallet and go back in again. As it's break time now, we also go in again and have lunch and warm up. When we get back, we see there is a wooden cover over the pallet, and so the pallet is now a crate. So we walk to the carpenter and ask what's he up to. He says, "You just wait and see, but don't talk about it." 15 minutes or so later the tower crane comes and lifts the crate to something like, let's say the 20th floor, and the crate is put it there, and then we see the carpenter put a similar pallet as before back in the same spot. A little later that day we see they put the mold to pour the concrete over the crate for the next floor of the building. After seeing this, we ask the carpenter if he hated the guy that much to something like that. He said, yeah, I gave him once some lip because he was a pain. As revenge, he fired his son over some beginner's mistake that he made when he was still in his trial period and got him, above that, also blacklisted at the company for 10 years when he was still training him to become a good master carpenter like him. Working with his son was something he wanted to do. He also been thinking of quieting and start somewhere else to work with his son and train his son there, but he worked at the company for 25 years and would lose a lot of benefits and security, and he also didn't Wayne give the doucher bag the satisfaction that he quit. He also told us that the doucher bag was the most likely one to park on the pallet. As walking was far below him, we talked some more about him and things he did and agreed the guy was an asshole first class. Day 2. The next day we are told to wait in the canteen after the first break, where then after break time, the doucher bag and the police walk in and are standing in front of us, and he tells that his 2-month-old Mercedes-Benz 500 seconds, an 85k car 30 years ago, 200k in 2019. Where he had been waiting for 7 months was stolen, and if anyone had seen something, the whole room started softly laughing. After that, we got also questioned by the police, as we worked close by, but we also said we did not see a thing, as we were not paying attention. We finish what we have to do, and are finished that day. We go back to our shop and have a laugh about the car on our way back, thinking this will be the end of the story. Forward about 8 months or so, the outside of the building has been finished, and we come back on that site to finish up the last bit of the gas pipe and install the gas meter itself. So this time it's only the 2 of us now on this job. We go to the site manager, who is now very friendly from the start with us this time, and we briefly discuss what we are going to do, and we say that if everything fits we are done today, as all are prefabbed in the shop. So we start working on getting the pipe in place. During our first break, we walk into the canteen and see the carpenter sitting, and we go sit next to him and ask, we saw that the doucher bag found his car back, as we had seen a same colored Mercedes-Benz 500 seconds standing when came on the job. And he says, nope, not the same car, but let us not talk about it here. He says, I heard 3 weeks ago that you guys were coming back, as I heard the heat is going to be turned on this week to dry out the building, and hoped it would be you guys again. After the break he tells us to come with him, and we take the lift to the 20th floor, and there he opens a locked big office room with working space for about 1,520 people, and there he stands the Mercedes-Benz 500 seconds, all polished up and all, on a finished floor, and standing on 4x8 meters/yards or so, of some nice looking red carpet, surrounded by 4 big lamps, like it was on display in a showroom. We both looked at him in amazement, and asked him how he had done it. He told us the whole story from beginning to end. After we left last time, the crate had just been standing there all the time. He only covered it with plastic and had put labels on it that the crate could only be opened after the building had a drying status. Things they do more if the equipment is hard to get in later. And that sometime later he jacked up the crate and put it on stands when they were pouring the finishing floor, and after the floor was hardened he had lowered the crate and they had filled up the holes. He had taken the last Friday off. It was Wednesdays by now I think. Taken of the crate, broken into the car. He had found someone and learned during those 8 months how to break into it without damaging it. He told us, rolled the car of the pallet, disassembled the pellet, put down the carpet, and rolled the car back on it. After that he had been polishing and cleaning the car and room for the rest of the day. He even had gotten a spray can of fresh car smell and used it in the car and changed the parking money for useless foreign coins just to piss him off. He told us that foreman of the floors was a long friend of his and also hated the Dutcher bag's guts and was his only accomplice, and no one else knew what he had done, and that we were the only other ones who knew what he had done. So he liked to share the experience with us and told us 2 weeks ago Dutcher bag had gotten his new Mercedes-Benz 500 seconds as we had seen it outside, and all this time he had been riding in a small 200 series loaner he did not like. He said it's now the right time to give him his car back, and he told us that he had postponed his revenge a week just for us. He then asked us to take a couple of photos of him sitting in the car with a blow up doll next to him, and him hanging over the hood. As in about 10 years, he would be retired, and the statute of limitations would have then run out, and he would have liked to then give the photos to him. Then he placed the doll behind the wheel, locked the car, and we walked out of the room leaving the door open, and him dragging 2 power cords with him, and plugging them in a power box, and we see that the room is lit up with the 4x1000W halogen lamps. And then he says, let's go to the top floor and let things happen for about 10 minutes, and then we come back, and then he should be there. Then in about another 5 to 10 minutes, we take the elevator to the top floor. There we walk behind him and go up a pair of stairs, and we end up at the door to the roof. But then there he goes to the machine room of the elevator. He looks at the control display for a minute or so, and when the lifts are all standing still, he turns the power off, puts a lock on it, and hangs up a card back quote do not operate, and then we go back down again. We are taking our time getting back down to the 20th floor, and we hear laughter as we come closer by, and then there are about 50 guys in the hallway in the room where the car is standing, all laughing their ass off, with the lights on it. The car looked like it belonged in a car brochure. The only thing wrong with it was blow up doll behind the wheel. And yes, after about 5+ minutes the Dutcher bag comes storming into the room, sweating like a pig, as he had just run his fat ass up all the 20 floors, walking into the room with eyes as big as I only have seen in cartoons. He is standing there for about a 1 minute or so breathing hard, sweating and swearing and cursing, till he finally noticed there are about 50, or maybe by now even 6,070 guys standing around and laughing at him. I see him getting red until in his neck from anger, and he starts swearing again and tells that anyone that is not gone in 10 secretary, they gon' be fired. So we all walk away as the show is over, but man, it had been one hell of a show. Later in the day the carpenter comes by again, and we have laugh again. We also heard he had fired 2 people that had come later by that had laughed out loud after the seeing the car with the doll still sitting in it, as it was still locked when he was still there. We had some more talk and laughs, and my colleague asked the guy for his number as he wanted a follow up, as this was too good not to have any. And we said our goodbyes. Though because of all the commotions and talking, we had to do 30 minutes or so of unpaid overtime on a 56-hour job, but we did not mind at all. A couple of weeks later, my colleague had phoned the guy to ask what the fallout had been. The 2 fired guys were back the next day on the job again, as ours had turned back their termination, as it would have been a very costly wrongful termination, and the car had been chopped up by 2 mechanics from car junkyard taking 3 days to do it, and it was sold for parts, as there was no other way to get it out of the building. Also, many from the head office had been by, including the CEO, to look at the car standing on the 20th, humiliating the douchebag some more. He also told him that he had printed the photos and they were good, and that he had made photocopies of it with him sitting behind the wheel with the blow up doll next to him, but with his face covered with a smiley sticker, and hanged them up through the whole building in the strangeness places, and the douchebag got steamy every time he found one, and that he now has been suspecting him pretty much to be the who did it after a week or so, as it was all something he would do, as they know one another for over 20 years and have history, but without proof, he can't do anything. What I learned of this, as I have been sitting on the front seat of this show. Two things: revenge is best severed ice and ice cold, and to never piss off a prankster. Thanks for watching the Chronicles of Reddit. Like and subscribe for a marvelous life of adventure.